Hello and welcome to LTS Suite. Today I'm going to show you how we can create a supplier invoice. To get started, we're going to go on the left-hand side, go into Purchases, and then we're going to go into Supplier Invoice. Once you're here in Supplier Invoices, you will see a record of all the ones you've done so far. To start a new one, we will go up there to the top left and hit the New button. When you're creating your supplier invoice, you first need to choose which supplier that you want to pay. In this case, I'm going to be choosing Ashley as my supplier. The next step to do is to start to fill out these fields. So one of them is going to be a supplier invoice number. This could be the number that Ashley gives you after the fact, after all of the POs and everything has been unloaded. They'll give you the final supplier invoice number. So let's go ahead and put that number in. The next step to do is to choose your purchase orders that came from Ashley. So once we drop down this menu, we're going to get a list of all of the POs that have came from Ashley. So for this example, I'm going to be choosing this PO, and maybe we're also going to include another PO. So you can have multiple POs on one supplier invoice. We will give you the PO number right here as a column. Now that we have our POs selected down below, you will need to tell the system on which one of these items that you want to include on this supplier invoice number. Now let's say for this example that we want to not include some of these items. Maybe these items are not on the supplier invoice, so we just need to go through these and maybe this one as well. Once you start to reduce some of these items in here, it will also reduce your total pending amount. So we have a total pending amount now of $2,864.54. You'll see there's a little section over here called difference, and this is deriving from our supplier invoice total up here. So let's say, for example, the total was $2,900. If I scroll down to the bottom, there out of that $2,900, there's a difference of $35.46. Now, this difference could be the additional expenses, the freight costs that we have on the supplier invoice that's not in this section right here. So we do have that button right here. So once we click that once, you will see your freight expense account there. If we want to credit that to the supplier, we can do that right there. Then we want to put in our freight amount, which happens to be the difference amount. So once we press OK, you can see that difference will go away. So this is how to balance out your supplier invoices. That way we have a $0 difference. That way we have everything that's on the supplier invoice that was handed from us and it'd be accurate in the system. Now underneath this section, there are two additional checkboxes. The first one is apply the effective rate per unit to the purchase price. So if we scroll to the right a little bit, we're going to have our PO unit price, which is the unit price that we gave the item at the time of the PO. More importantly, all the way here on the right-hand side is our effective rate per unit. Now I did add in $35 as my freight expense, so once we check this box, it's going to apply the effective rate per unit to our purchase price. So once I check that box, you'll see the right-hand amount change. What it's done is it's aggregated the $35.46 and divided it up upon all of the different quantities in here. So that's how we get our new effective rate per unit, so we can add on our freight cost to our actual cost, giving us a final landed cost. The other checkbox underneath that is to include the additional expense, so our specified additional expense of that $35.46. If we want to include that expense in the cost of goods sold of the item, you can also check that as well. Lastly, the next little thing is to finally get our payment schedule going. So this is for you to tell the system on when your payment is due. So let's say the first payment is due 2 weeks after today, so 28th. Let's do the 11th, and out of that, maybe we're only paying $900. So you can hit the add button there. It adds February 11th, payment amount of $900. Since we have $900 up there, you can see it got reduced out of our total pending scheduled amount. So let's go ahead and get a secondary date. We'll do 2 weeks after the 11th, so do the 25th. Let's say it's another $900. Add that. So there we go. So again, it got reduced. And we keep on doing this until the amount goes out and we collect our final payment. Another $900. And then finally, now we have $200 left. Let's go to our final payment. Now that we're at the last one, I can also click the black button with the white arrow, and that'll move that total pending amount field into that payment amount field. Then we hit add. And so now we have a $0 pending scheduled amount and we have our payment schedule there. This is only enabled if we have the pay to supplier invoice setting enabled in your purchase settings in the back end, where it's looking at the actual purchase order. Once you're ready, we want to go down to the bottom and hit that create button. Now back at the page, if I scroll to the right a little bit, you have your purchase order numbers and then their corresponding purchase document numbers. So out of these POs, these purchase documents got created from those. And then you can see our payment schedule date over here on the right-hand side. So the first payment of 900 will be due on the 11th. So that is how to create a supplier invoice in Altia Suite. Thank you.